The Book of Kings tells the story of a man of God from Judah. This man was not just any ordinary individual, he was chosen by God for a very special purpose. His life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. God called him to a special mission, a mission that would test his faith and courage. The divine call was clear and unmistakable, resonating deep within his soul. He was to go to Bethel, a city in the kingdom of Israel. Bethel was not just any city. It was a place of great significance, both historically and spiritually. It was a city that had once been a center of worship for the true God, but had now fallen into idolatry. Jeroboam, the king of Israel, had set up golden calves there. These idols were meant to divert the people's worship away from the one true God. The golden calves stood as symbols of rebellion and disobedience against God's commandments. He wanted his people to worship them instead of the one true God. This angered God greatly. The skies seemed to echo God's displeasure, darkening with stormy clouds as if nature itself was protesting against this grave sin. The man of God was tasked with delivering a message from God to King Jeroboam. This message was not one of peace, but of judgment. It was a message that would challenge the very foundations of Jeroboam's rule. He was to stand at the altar in Bethel and speak against it. The altar, once a place of holy sacrifices, had become a site of abomination. The man of God was to declare God's judgment upon it. This was a dangerous task, as the king was known for his ruthlessness. Jeroboam was not a ruler who tolerated dissent. His wrath was swift and severe, and many had suffered under his iron-fisted rule. Yet, the man of God obeyed God's call without hesitation. His faith was unwavering, and his resolve was unbreakable. He knew that he was not walking alone. God was with him every step of the way. He knew that God's word had to be proclaimed no matter the cost. The truth had to be spoken, even if it meant facing the wrath of a powerful king. The man of God was prepared to sacrifice everything for the sake of his divine mission. With courage and conviction, he set out on his journey to Bethel. The road ahead was long and fraught with danger, but his heart was steadfast. He was driven by a higher purpose, a calling that transcended all earthly fears. As he walked through the arid landscape, he prayed for strength and guidance, knowing that his mission was of utmost importance. The journey to Bethel was not just a physical one, it was a spiritual pilgrimage, a testament to his unwavering faith and dedication to God's will. Upon arriving in Bethel, the man of God wasted no time. He knew his mission was urgent and his message was of utmost importance. He walked straight into the heart of the city towards the altar where Jeroboam stood. The city was bustling with activity, but his presence commanded attention. With a booming voice, he proclaimed God's judgment against the altar and the king's actions. His words echoed through the streets, reaching the ears of everyone nearby. He declared that the altar would be destroyed and the bones of those who worshiped there would be scattered. His prophecy was clear and unwavering, leaving no room for doubt.
The altar will be destroyed, and the bones of those who worship here will be scattered. His voice carried a weight of authority that silenced the murmurs of the crowd.
To prove that his words were truly from God, a miracle happened. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as the man of God continued to speak. As the man of God spoke, the altar split in two. The sound of the cracking stone was deafening, and the sight was awe-inspiring. The ashes from the sacrifices spilled onto the ground. This was a powerful sign, a tangible proof of the divine message being delivered. This visible demonstration of God's power left no doubt that the man of God was speaking the truth. The crowd, which had been skeptical moments before, now stood in stunned silence. The people who witnessed this were astonished and terrified. They had never seen such a display of divine intervention, and it shook them to their core. The man of God's message was not just heard, but felt deeply by all who were present. The fear and awe in their eyes spoke volumes about the impact of the miracle they had just witnessed. This event would be remembered for generations, a testament to the power and authority of God's word. King Jeroboam was furious. He saw the man of God as a threat to his authority. He stretched out his hand towards the man of God and commanded his guards to seize him.
Seize him!
But God had other plans. As the king pointed at the man of God, his hand became stiff and withered. He could no longer move it. Fear gripped the king. He realized that he was dealing with a power far greater than himself. Jeroboam, shaken and desperate, pleaded with the man of God.
Intercede with your God for me, that my hand may be restored.
The man of God prayed to God, and the king's hand was healed. Amazed by this act of mercy, Jeroboam invited the man of God to his palace for a meal.
Come home with me and refresh yourself, and let me give you a reward.
However, God had given the man of God specific instructions. He was not to eat or drink anything in Bethel or return by the same road he had come. The man of God, remembering his instructions, firmly refused the king's invitation.
I cannot accept your hospitality.
He knew that obedience to God was paramount, even if it meant refusing the kindness of a king. As the man of God journeyed home, he encountered an old prophet who lived in Bethel. This was no ordinary meeting, it was a crossroads of destiny, where the paths of truth and deception would intertwine.
Come, join me at my house for a meal, for an angel of the Lord appeared to me with a message. The invitation seemed genuine, a warm gesture in a world filled with uncertainty.
This old prophet, however, was not a man of God but a deceiver. His intentions were shrouded in darkness, and his words were laced with lies.
Yes, the angel instructed me to invite you to my house for a meal. The old prophet's voice was convincing, his demeanor calm and reassuring.
The man of God, trusting in the words of the old prophet, made a grave mistake. He pondered the invitation, weighing the words spoken to him, and decided to trust the old prophet.
If an angel of the Lord has spoken to you, then I will come. His voice was filled with conviction, believing that he was following a divine command.
He disobeyed God's direct command and agreed to eat at the old prophet's house. The decision was made and the path of disobedience was set.
I will dine with you. The words were simple, yet they carried the weight of a fateful choice.
He allowed himself to be swayed by human words instead of clinging to the truth that God had spoken. The man of God, once steadfast in his faith, now found himself entangled in a web of deceit. The old prophet's house, which should have been a place of refuge, became a symbol of his downfall. As they dined together, the man of God could not shake the feeling of unease, a nagging doubt that perhaps he had strayed from his true path. The old prophet's words echoed in his mind, but so did the command of the Lord, creating a storm of conflict within him. This moment of weakness, this single act of disobedience, would lead to consequences far beyond what he could have imagined. The man of God had fallen, not by the sword or by force, but by the subtle and insidious power of deception.
The consequences of the man of God's disobedience were swift and tragic. As he rode home, he encountered a lion on the road. The lion attacked and killed him, leaving his body lying on the path as a stark reminder of the cost of straying from God's commands.
The old prophet, upon hearing of the man of God's death, knew that judgment had fallen. He retrieved the man of God's body and buried it in his own tomb, acknowledging that the man of God had been a true servant of the Lord, despite his one fatal mistake.
The story of the man of God from Judah is a poignant reminder of the importance of unwavering obedience to God. Even though the man of God faithfully delivered God's message and performed miracles, his single act of disobedience cost him his life.
This highlights the gravity of God's commands and the danger of straying from them, even when seemingly reasonable alternatives present themselves. The old prophet's actions, while deceptive, also revealed a glimmer of respect for the man of God and his connection to the divine. His burial of the man of God and his prophecy that a true servant of God was laid to rest there acknowledged the authenticity of the man of God's calling and the tragedy of his downfall. The story also underscores the enduring power of God's word. Despite Jeroboam's initial defiance and the tragic end of the man of God, the prophecy against the altar in Bethel ultimately came to pass. This demonstrates that God's word always prevails, even in the face of human opposition. The tale stands as a stark warning against idolatry and the worship of false gods. Jeroboam's actions, driven by political ambition and fear, led his people astray and incurred God's judgment. The shattered altar serves as a visual reminder of the consequences of turning away from the one true God. Centuries later, the story of the man of God from Judah continues to resonate with believers today. It reminds us that God's commands are not arbitrary, but are given for our good and His glory. It compels us to examine our own lives and ensure that we are walking in obedience to God's will. The story also highlights the ever-present danger of deception. Just as the old prophet led the man of God astray, we too face countless distractions and deceptions that can lead us away from God's truth. The story encourages us to be discerning, to test everything against the unchanging standard of God's Word, and to remain steadfast in our faith, even when faced with challenges or temptations.